A birthday shrouded in shadows. Delaney Frost sat alone in her cramped Chicago apartment, the flickering light of a single candle casting long shadows across her kitchen counter. At 33, the weight of her past pressed against the walls, as if the memories she'd buried since her mother's funeral 3 years ago were clawing their way back. The off cupcake she had bought, sitting in front of her, was a pathetic substitute for celebration, its lone candle a cruel reminder of her loneliness. She shut her eyes, wished out of habit more than expectation, and extinguished the flame. The smoke wandered lazily up, fading into the pale kitchen glow, much as she faded from ties to what was left of her broken-down family. The sudden ring of her doorbell cut the quiet, a shock that made her heart beat. She hadn't been expecting anyone. Friends knew her birthday was a day she liked to let slide past, unremarked, unnoted. "Package for Delaney Frost," growled the delivery man, shoving a mid-sized box into her shaking hands before disappearing into the Chicago evening. The return address froze her breath. Gareth Frost, her dad, a man whose voice she hadn't heard in 6 years, whose presence had always threatened a brewing storm. His neat handwriting on the brown paper package, bound with a blue ribbon, was like a call from a ghost. Delaney placed the box on her counter, its immaculate face a jarring contrast to the turmoil it awakened in her. With Gareth, relationships had always been a minefield, volatile, characterized by promise she never could keep. "What do you want now?" she breathed, her words lost to the thud of her heart. The box remained there, wordless but weighty, as if containing more than the items inside. For 20 excruciating minutes, Delaney paced the box, her heart pounding like a caged animal. Her father's presence hung big in her memory, a man who dominated their childhood household with chilly efficiency, his affection delivered in submission, his retribution dispensed in spoonfuls of displeasure. And then she picked up a kitchen knife, blade shining in the fluorescent light, and cut through the tape, each slice measured as if breaking a seal to a forbidden secret. There was a white box inside, tied with a plain blue ribbon, immaculate and unsettlingly beautiful. There was a small card taped to the lid. "Happy birthday, kiddo. Let's start over." Dad. The words were a trap, penned in the same harsh script that had once signed her report cards with "could do better" or "poor effort." She opened the top to find homemade cookies snug in tissue paper, golden brown, edges wonderfully perfect, decorated with delicately blue icing designs of flowers, swirls, and stars. The workmanship was incredible, each cookie a masterpiece that had to have required hours. Delaney's breath caught. Her father had never baked. Discipline, structure, and stern control were his bailiwick, not pipe cookies. She picked up one, its intricate pattern shining in the light, and a shiver ran down her spine. This wasn't the Gareth she knew, a man whose love was as chill as his math, who once imprisoned her sister in her room for a weekend for spilling a glass of juice. Was this an olive branch or something sinister? The cookies were a puzzle, one she wasn't ready to figure out. She couldn't eat them. Discarding them felt wrong, like eliminating a piece of proof. The box sat on her counter, an unwelcome visitor asking questions she wasn't prepared to answer. Her phone rang, drawing her out of the tunnel of her mind. There was a text from her sister, Genevieve. Avivi. "Del, happy birthday. Wish we could celebrate together. Milo drew you a picture." There was a child's drawing attached, 2 women and a little boy standing under a fiery sun, clumsy but sincere. It touched Delaney's heart, a fleeting glimmer of warmth in her bleak world. On the spur of the moment, she wrote back, "I'm driving out to see you this afternoon. Okay?" V's response was instant. "Yes. Milo will lose his mind." An hour passed, and Delaney's old Honda lurched into the suburbs, cookie box beside him, a heavy presence, like a passenger with an ulterior motive. V's humble rental bungalow was the opposite of Delaney's cold apartment. Chalk on the driveway was strewn about, wind chimes hummed in the wind, and the air smelled of fresh-cut grass and lilacs in bloom. Milo, V's 7-year-old son, charged into her legs, his dark eyes shining with unnerving insight. "You look sad, Aunt Delaney," he said, cocking his head. "Is it because birthdays make you miss Grandma?" V appeared behind him, her smile tired but real. At 30, single motherhood had left faint lines around her eyes, signs of sleepless nights and unyielding love. The sisters hugged, a temporary anchor in their shattered worlds. Delaney raised the box of cookies. "Dad sent these," she announced, her voice strained with tension. V's eyebrows arched. "Our father? The guy who grounded me for a month for swiping an Oreo?" "Right," Delaney replied, opening the box. V looked inside, her face going from shock to suspicion. "They're gorgeous, but since when does Dad bake?" Milo's eyes went wide, his face lighting up with delight. "Can I have one, Mom? Please?" V hesitated, looking at Delaney. "They're your birthday present." Delaney shoved the box forward, her stomach nodding. "Take them. They'll just be stale in my apartment." Milo picked up a star-patterned cookie, crumbs spilling as he took a bite. "These are amazing! Like honey and cinnamon!" V nibbled one, her brow creasing. "He's right. They're wonderful. But this feels wrong." "People change," Delaney said, her voice empty. She didn't believe it. "Not him," V said quietly, her eyes far away, haunted. "Not without a reason." They spent the afternoon chatting, Milo bragging about his rock collection and crayon pictures, V discussing her work at the local library. But the cookies hung in the air, their presence an unspoken threat. By the time Delaney departed, the sky had grown dark, and Milo had devoured 3 additional cookies, V having nibbled on 2. She hugged them farewell as the box sat half full. The following morning, Delaney poured coffee while the phone rang. Her father's number appeared on the screen, a specter from a past she'd attempted to bury. Her finger rested on decline, but a nagging curiosity drew her in. "Hello? Did you receive my package?" Gareth's voice was a low growl, strained but infused with tension, as if stretched to breaking point. "I did," Delaney replied, her mouth parched. "How are the cookies?" His tone had an unnatural brightness, a predator waiting for its prey to falter. "I passed them on to V and Milo," she replied, fighting calm. "I'm not a sweet tooth person." The silence that came after was a vacuum, heavy and crushing. When Gareth finally spoke, his tone was ice, cold enough to slice. "You did what?" The fury in 3 words sent her stumbling backward, coffee mug shaking in her hand. "They're just cookies, Dad," she replied, fury rising to hide the fear. "What's the big deal?" "They weren't for them," he spat, every word venom. "They were for you. Only you." The phone went dead, leaving a silence that was deafening in her ears. Panic raked at her chest. She phoned V. No answer. Voicemail. Her fingers trembled as she tried again, horror twisting tighter with each unanswered ring. 20 minutes after that, she was careening toward V's house, the world slurring around her. The front door hung open, a breach of V's compulsive discretion. In the house, the silence was too still, the air charged with something awful. "V?" Delaney called out, her voice going unanswered. A low groan from the bathroom propelled her forward, her heart pounding. V was slumped on the bathroom floor, deathly pale, sweat popping out across her brow. "Something's wrong," she croaked, her voice little more than a whisper. "Milo, he began vomiting at dawn. Mrs. Bradley brought him to the ER. Her eyes, her beautiful eyes, filled with fear, met Delaney's. "It's the cookies. It has to be." Delaney's knees gave way beneath her as she led V to her chest, guilt washing over her like a tidal wave. The cookies weren't an offering of peace. They were a weapon, and they'd been intended for her, and she'd given them to the two individuals she loved most. The hospital smelled of antiseptic, a clinical attack on Delaney's senses as she paced the waiting room. V and Milo were in rooms on either side of her, their lives on threads. The doctor emerged, his expression grim. "Your nephew is stable, but dehydrated. Your sister's condition is critical. Severe poisoning." "Poisoning?" Delaney's voice broke, the word a knife in her stomach. "Did you know what they ate?" The doctor's eyes searched, steady. Delaney stumbled, the truth too great to confess. "I gave them cookies yesterday," she lied, her voice empty. "Store-bought. I don't know what was in them." The lie felt like ash, but she required time to untangle her father's purpose. Two police officers turned up, their questions crisp and unforgiving. What did they have to eat? Any allergies? Anyone with a reason to hurt them? Delaney's voice was shaking as she let on that the cookies belonged to her father and recounted his enraged phone call. "He said they were just for me," she whispered, using her voice barely loud enough to be heard. The officers shared a look, making a note of Gareth's information. "We'll need to speak with him," the taller one said, his tone unreadable. As they left, a nurse approached. "Miss Frost, there's something else. Your sister's blood work showed traces of aconite, monkshood. It's rare, highly toxic, and not something you'd find in store-bought food." Delaney's stomach churned. Aconite. The name echoed in her mind, a poison from her father's world of control and vengeance. Hoping to find answers, Delaney drove 5 hours north to Gareth's remote Michigan Upper Peninsula farmhouse, lost among towering pines that seemed to whisper their warnings. The peeling white paint and wonky shutters lent the house an aura of decay, as if it was rotting with the secrets it kept. The back door swung open at her touch, creaking to let her into a chaos that conflicted with her father's perfectionism. Books sat on wobbly piles, papers spilled across the kitchen table, each filled with Gareth's neat handwriting, equations, chemical structures, and arcane symbols that resembled spells. Textbooks on medicine sat on a shelf, their pages annotated with citations from toxicology, botany, and poisons. Glass containers packed the kitchen cupboards, labeled with cold titles: Belladonna, Digitalis, Aconite, Taxus. Smaller jars carried family names: Margaret, Helen, Delaney, Genevieve. Personal items: a button, a ribbon, a lock of hair. Her name on a jar filled her with ice. What was he collecting? Why? A lower shelf carried vials of powders and liquids, each marked with dates and initials. K.F. 1978. Her heart skipped. Who was K.F.? A framed picture dropped, the glass breaking on the hardwood floor. It was a photo of a young girl, captioned Karen, 1978. Her serious face and tidy braids awakened a faint memory, a face from a dream or nightmare. The sound outside, tires screeching on gravel, made her heart leap. She stashed the picture and a silver locket with her name engraved on it, inside which was a dried petal from a flower and a lock of a child's hair, too fine to belong to an adult. She slipped out the back door and concealed herself in the trees as an older woman, not Gareth, came to the house with a key. Her steps were measured, her face wrapped in a scarf. Who was she, and what was she doing in this hell? As Delaney drove home to Chicago, her phone rang. Unrecognized number. "Delaney? A woman's voice, old but crisp, broke through the static. "This is your aunt, Margot Heller. Avoid your father. He's not yet done with you." Her voice was brittle and edged with fear. "See me tomorrow. Lakeside Diner, Evanston, noon." The line went dead before Delaney had a chance to reply. Back at the hospital, V lay awake, pale and awake, drinking water through a straw. "You look like hell," she croaked, her voice soft but piercing. "I went to Dad's," Delaney confessed, moving a chair over next to the bed. V's eyes bulged. "Are you crazy? What if he'd been home?" Delaney told her about the jars, about the picture of Karen, about the locket. V's expression shadowed. "He used to spike Mom's food when she made him angry," she breathed. "I caught him once, grinding spice into her tea. I tried to warn her, but she wouldn't listen. It was simpler to pretend he wasn't a monster." Milo stood in the doorway, his hospital gown swallowing his tiny body. "I had terrible dreams," he said, his voice shaking. "Grandpa was in them. He told me I shouldn't have eaten what didn't belong to me." Delaney's blood chilled. "He was tall, with white hair and glasses, and he smelled like those sticks you burn," Milo continued. Incense. Gareth's distinctive scent. V's grip on Delaney's hand tightened. "He's not only after you, Del. He's after us all." Detective Kellen Byrne appeared, his gray eyes sharp and unyielding. Toxicology reports confirm aconite, monkshood, in their systems. Highly toxic, even in small doses. This wasn't an accident. Delaney's heart sank. "I'm meeting my aunt, Margot Heller, today," she said. "She might know something." Byrne nodded. "I'd like to join you." At the Lakeside Diner, Margot sat in a corner booth, her silver hair in a severe bun, her eyes scanning the door like a hunted animal. She stiffened at Byrne's arrival, but set an old, faded photograph on the table, a youthful Gareth and his twin, Karen. "You must learn about Karen," she said softly, her voice shaking with repressed fear. She was Gareth's twin. They were together all the time until she vanished in 1978. He was never the same. He blamed himself and others. He's been disintegrating ever since, fixated on control, on punishment. He believes you betrayed him, Delaney, the same way he believed Karen did. Byrne scooted forward. "Do you know where he is these days?" Margot's lips curled into a tight line. "He's in hiding. But there's another one you should be looking out for. Eleanor Kane, an old colleague of his. She's been spotted around his home. She's familiar with his tactics, his toxics. She could be assisting him." As Delaney stepped out of the diner, her phone rang with a voicemail from an unidentified number. Gareth's voice, steady but with an undertone of threat, sounded in her ears. "You're poking your nose where it doesn't belong, Delaney. Karen learned that. So will you." The call ended on a low laugh, sending shivers through her. In the lot, a shadow shifted, a figure observing from afar, too distant to be recognized, but near enough to pose a threat. Was it Gareth, or enigmatic Eleanor Kane? In the hospital, V was upright, her eyes blazing even as she paled. "There's something I didn't tell you," she whispered. "When I was 10, I discovered a journal in Dad's study. It was addressed to Karen and filled with recipes. Not food, chemicals, poisons. He spoke of correcting errors, of individuals who deserved to be punished. I figured it was just his strange way of dealing with her vanishing. But now..." She stopped, tears rising. "He's been building up to this for years, Del. And we're not the only ones he's been after." Delaney's phone rang again. A text from an unknown number. "You can't hide from the truth, Delaney. The cookies were just the start." With it was a photo of her apartment building, from the street, the timestamp an hour ago. Her blood turned icy. Someone was stalking her, getting close. Was it Gareth? Eleanor or someone else. Sheathed in darkness, Delaney crept back to Gareth's farmhouse. Pine and rot filled the air, the house looming as a predator in the shadows. She moved quietly inside, finding a compartment in Gareth's desk. It held a ledger. Pages itemized experiments with poison, dates tracking her mother's illnesses, and references to KF and EK. One of the entries, one from a week ago, read, "Delaney will learn. The recipe is fine. EK will get it done." A floorboard creaked behind her. She turned, her heart in her throat, to see a figure standing in the doorway. A woman older, with sharp angles and eyes that sparkled with ill intent. "You shouldn't be here," the woman said, speaking low and menacingly. "Gareth warned you." Delaney backed away, clutching the ledger. "Who are you?" she demanded. The woman smiled, a predator's grin. "Eleanor Kane, and you're out of time." Delaney bolted, the ledger tucked under her arm, her breath ragged as she sprinted into the woods. Eleanor's laughter echoed behind her, a sound that promised pursuit. Back in Chicago, she handed the ledger to Detective Byrne, who promised to analyze it. "Everything's changed," he told her, "but you have to get somewhere safe. Gareth and Eleanor are still loose." Milo was in the hospital, recovering, and when he spotted Delaney, his tiny face lit up. "I drew you another picture," he told her, holding up a sketch of a house with a shadowy figure behind it. "That's Grandpa," he whispered. "He's still angry." V clutched Delaney's hand. "We have to stop this, Del. For Milo, for Mom, for us." Delaney agreed, her determination growing. The cookies were only the start of Gareth's killing game, a game based on a past she was just starting to grasp. Karen's vanishing, Eleanor's entanglement, the ledger's coldly calculated entries. They were the fragments of a puzzle she must solve before Gareth killed again. As she walked out of the hospital, another text came through. "You can't outrun your blood, Delaney. See you soon." G. The darkness closed in, and Delaney knew the truth. Some gifts were never meant to be unwrapped, and some family secrets were toxic enough to kill everything she loved. Delaney Frost hunched in her dim Chicago apartment, a lone candle flickering on a store-bought cupcake, casting eerie shadows that danced like ghosts across her kitchen counter. At 33, her birthday felt like a curse, heavy with the weight of family secrets buried since her mother's funeral 3 years prior. The solitary flame of the cupcake taunted her aloneness, a soft glow in a life shattered by a history she could not shake. She opened her eyes, her desire a fervent prayer for serenity, and extinguished the flame. The curl of smoke vanished into the air, lost like her connection to the Frost family's poisonous heritage. A piercing doorbell cut through the silence, accelerating the beat of her heart. Nobody came to visit Delaney on her birthday. She had taken care of it, keeping friends at bay who dared to care. "Package for Delaney Frost," a delivery person growled, pushing a brown package into her hands and disappearing into the Chicago evening. Her breath stuck at the return address. Gareth Frost, her father, a ghost gone 6 years, his arrival a storm cloud of fear. His neat script, scribbled on the package wrapped in a blue ribbon, seemed an invitation to a bad dream. The box rested on her counter, untouched yet threatening, reminding her of Gareth's icy dominance. "What do you think you're doing, Dad?" she breathed, her voice drowned out by the pounding of her heart. The package towered above her, a Pandora's box hinting at danger and treachery. For 20 torturous minutes, Delaney walked back and forth in the box, her heartbeat a wild drum. Gareth Frost was no father, his affection a bill of expectations, his discipline cutting like a razor. She grabbed a kitchen knife, its blade shining in the cold fluorescent light, and cut the tape, every slice a rebellion against the terror gnawing in her chest. Inside, a blue ribbon on a white box held homemade cookies, golden, perfect, intricately decorated with blue. Icing of flowers, swirls, and stars. A card. Happy birthday, kiddo. Let's start over. Dad. The words were a trap, signed in the same precise script that once marked her failures. The perfection of the cookies unsettled her. Gareth did not bake. His domain was discipline, not sweet things. A shiver crept down her spine. Was this an offer of peace, or a fatal fixation in disguise as a present? She couldn't bring herself to eat them. Discarding them was like disposing of evidence in a Chicago mystery that she didn't know yet. The cookies sat, a mute threat on her countertop, their loveliness concealing something evil. Her phone rang, jolting her out of her tumbling thoughts. Her sister, Genevieve, V, had sent her a text message. Happy birthday, Dell. Milo sketched you a picture. Clipped to it was a kid's drawing. 2 women and a boy beneath a burning sun. A small moment of heat in Delaney's chill life. On the spur of the moment, she answered, driving out to visit you. Okay? V's reaction was immediate. Yes! Milo will flip. An hour later, Delaney's rattling Honda carried the cookie box to V's suburban rental. Its chalk-strewn driveway and lilac-scented air, a stark contrast to her sterile life. Milo, V's 7-year-old, crashed into her with a hug, his dark eyes unnervingly perceptive. You're sad, Aunt Delaney, he said. Is it Grandma? V appeared, her smile worn but real. Lines of single motherhood etched around her eyes. They hugged, a fleeting barrier to their broken history. Delaney produced the cookies. Dad sent these, she said, her tone constrained with wariness. V's eyes went wide. Gareth? The guy who confined me to my bedroom for a week because I ate a cookie? She looked into the box, her expression darkening. These are gorgeous, but why? Milo's eyes twinkled. May I have one, Mom? V hesitated, looking at Delaney. They're your gift. Delaney nudged the box forward, her gut twisted with dread. Take them. Milo gobbled up a star-shaped cookie, crumbs spilling. So good! Like honey. V took a bite of one, scowling. Delicious, but off. People change, Delaney argued. V's eyes turned cold. Not him, not without a motive. The cookies hung around, their essence a repressed menace, as Milo devoured 3 more, and V too. By evening, as Delaney drove off, the box stood half full, and a storm was clouding the horizon. Morning dawned with a call from Gareth, his number a specter on her screen. Her finger wavered over decline, but fear drew her in. Did you receive my present? His voice was a low growl, stretched taut with threat. I gave them to V and Milo, Delaney told him, holding on to calm. Silence yawned, a hollow full of anger. You did what? He spat, his words venom. Those were for you. The phone went dead, her heart racing. She panicked. V's phone went straight to voicemail, each unanswered ring tightening the noose of fear. Delaney raced to V's house, where she found the door slightly open, a breach of V's prudence. In the bathroom, a low moan guided her to V, crumpled on the floor, pale and sweaty. Milo's at the ER, she croaked. It's the cookies. Delaney's reality spun. The poisoned cookies, intended for her, had targeted the sole family she had left. The hospital antiseptic odor smothered Delaney as she paced, V and Milo hanging on by a thread. The doctor's tone was bleak. Aconite, monkshood, uncommon and lethal. Delaney's cookie fib didn't stand up to police questioning. They were from my father, she confessed, describing his angry call.
He said they were just for me. The officer's looks said it all. Gareth Frost was a poisoning suspect at the hospital. Delaney sped to Gareth's Michigan farmhouse, a crumbling remnant between murmuring pines. Inside, disorder contradicted his fixation on system.
Books on toxicology, jars with labels aconite, LaDonna, and KF, 1978. A photograph of a girl, Karen, 1978, evoked an eerie recollection. A vehicle came by. An old woman, not Gareth. Delaney ran, holding a locket with her name and a dried blossom, her heart pounding. Margot Heller, her aunt, called a warning. Stay away from Gareth. Tomorrow, Lakeside Diner. At the hospital, V disclosed Gareth's poisoning of their mother. The incense-scented dream of Milo's grandpa corroborated the warning. Detective Byrne met up with them at the diner, where Margot revealed Karen, Gareth's twin, who disappeared in 1978. He's coming apart, she stated, citing Eleanor Kane, Gareth's accomplice in his lethal crusade. A voicemail from Gareth chilled her. You're digging too deep, Delaney. Karen learned. So will you. A photo of her apartment, time-stamped recently, proved she was being watched. At Gareth's farmhouse, a ledger detailed his poison experiments, naming Delaney and E.K. A creak revealed Eleanor Kane, her smile predatory. You're out of time, she hissed. Delaney fled, ledger in hand, as Eleanor's laughter haunted her. Milo's recovery was hopeful, but Milo's drawing of Grandpa incited fear. V's discovery of Gareth's journal, recipes for poison, designs for punishment, solidified his grudge. One last text from Gareth. You can't outrun your blood. See you soon. And as darkness came, Delaney prepared for the truth. Some presents were fatal, and family secrets could kill.